In this video, we are going to learn about the hypothesis test and the variance and the standard deviation of normal distribution, which is the category number 3. We already talked about the category number 1 and 2, so this is the third one. The steps are the same. The only thing that is going to be different here is that our parameter of interest, instead of mu, is going to be variance or standard deviation. And also on the step number 5, we are gonna, for the test statistic, we are gonna work with another type of the test statistic. And then the rejection region is the same computation, so we are gonna do the whatever we have found, like in the whatever equation that we wrote down for step number 5. So we are gonna do the computation for that one, do all the calculations, and then the conclusion. So I'm going to write down here that this is the third category, and the parameter of interest that we have is going to be variance or a standard deviation. So we are interested to do the hypothesis test on the variance or a standard deviation of the population. They're the same, right? I mean, they have the same procedure. So a standard deviation of the population is the square root of the variance. So the first step is that we are looking for the parameter of interest, and we found it. So the second step is to state the null hypothesis. So for the null hypothesis, we would say that our sigma or sigma 2 is equal to the sigma 2 null. Our third step is that we want to specify the alternative hypothesis. For specifying the alternative hypothesis, so we would say that our sigma and our variance and the variance at null, they are not equal. So that's the alternative hypothesis. Fourth step is going to be choosing the alpha. And for the alpha, we'll say that, for example, if you're looking for a 95% confidence interval, so it's like the level of significance, it's going to be 5%. So we have different alpha. Most of the time, we will see that alpha is equal to the 5%. And then here we have step number 5, which is the appropriate test statistic. So the test statistic for category number 3 is a little different because we're talking about the variance here. And we would say that we are working with the chi-squared table. So the way that we would show it is like this. And the equation that we would have for this is that it's equal to the L minus 1 S2, which is coming from the sample, divided by the sigma 2, and sigma 2, like sigma 2 null, which is like the number that we want to see that if our variance of the population is equal to that number or not. So this is the chi-squared, which is going to be the test statistic. So when you think about it, when I have the test statistic as chi-squared, it means that for this alpha, I would need to go to the table and find out the chi-square value for the alpha. So I have the test statistic as the chi-squared. The next thing is that we want to look at the rejection criteria to find out the rejection region that we have. So chi-squared, the figure of it is a little different than the z and t that we had before for the mu, and it's like this. So for example, if you have your x and f of x, so for the chi-square you would have something like this. So it's skewed to one of the sides, and because of that, when we want to find out the amount of the chi-square for alpha, if it's one-sided, or half of the alpha if it's two-sided, the chi-square, it's going to be, we would say, for example, we are looking for the chi-square as the half of the alpha and n minus 1, or chi-square at the 1 minus half of the alpha and n minus 1. So this is the only difference. We had the same things for the confidence interval as well. That's the only difference here. So because of that, when we want to find out the rejection region, and number 6, we would say that reject the null hypothesis when our chi-square null, it's going to be greater than the chi-square. So here I'm going to have, let's say we are working with the two-sided, right? So I'm going to have it like half of the alpha and n minus 1, which is my degree of freedom, right? If it's like this, or if my chi-square null, it's going to be greater than less than, sorry, because we are working on this, so this part and this part. So here is the half of the alpha and here is the half of the alpha and n minus 1. So for this one here, we would say 1 minus half of the alpha and n minus 1. So it's going to be my chi-square, it's less than chi-square at 1 minus half of the alpha and n minus 1. So this is going to be, we are going to find out the rejection region like this. And then for the number 7, is the same, is computation. So what are we going to do is like that, we would need to find out S2 from our sample. So we are going to, I'm going to write it down here. So we're going to do all the calculation. And for number 8 is that we're going to see that if we are in the rejection region or not. So in fact, in the last step, which is the conclusion, what are we going to do is that we are going to decide if we are going to reject the null hypothesis or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So here is going to be my conclusion. And for the conclusion, we are going to look at this one. So this for two-sided. If we had one-sided, the same things is going to happen, that like the same things that we had before. The only thing is that instead of half of the alpha, we are going to have alpha. So for the rejection region, we are going to have the chi-square of the alpha and n minus 1. And here is 1 minus alpha and n minus 1. So the rest of the things are the same. We're just going to compare them and we will see that it's going to be if we are going to reject it or not. So this was the third category. So we learned about the hypothesis test and the third category for the statistics that we would do. The parameter of interest, as I said, is variance or the standard deviation of our population. And then we are going to do all of these steps. The next category that we are going to learn is about the proportion. So when our parameter of interest is going to be the proportion, we will see what's going to happen. Before going to that, I would recommend that you would look at the practice, like the examples that I'm going to, you would practice science. So there is an example that I'm going to work on it. On this category, for the category number 3, and then you can, that would be better if you work on that one and then go to the fourth category.